help me welcome Dr. Cindy Trimm. Dr. Trimm, welcome.
Hey there. Hey there. How was your day today?
Busy, but I'm here. I pressed my way and I said, it's going down. I don't care what gets in my way. We're making it happen.
That's always important, I think, in the midst of busyness, that's when God usually calls us to do something extra.
Yes.
And I discovered that he never calls lazy people who don't have nothing to do. He usually calls people that are busy,
Yes. Well, Dr. Trimm, we wanted to have you here not only in honor of Women's History Month, but just to talk and do what you do on a regular basis. You have a monthly newsletter that's come out, and in honor of Women's History, you spoke in that one of your recent articles, I think it was a few weeks ago, and you talked about how women are the multi, and I want to say it just like you said, multi-talented women are the ones who will lead the future. I want to get you to expound on that thought. Why is it, what are multi-talented women? What does that look like? And why are they the ones who are going to lead this future?
Well, women have something that men don't have. And I think that we're bringing our female energy and our femininity to the table as individuals that are co-laboring with our male contemporaries. So we're not trying to replace anyone. We're trying, or compete, we're trying to complete. Just like the sun and moon completes one another, that's what we're attempting to do. And this woman nurtures her sacred self. That's how I want to open it up. She's multi-talented, but she nurtures her sacred self. And another way of looking at that would just say that she's involved in self-mastery. And that's the big conversation today, because self-mastery is not just about self-care. There's a whole lot of other parts of us that we need to be aware of. So self-mastery starts with self-awareness. And so that woman, when she shows up, she's not trying to be the best. She's trying to be the only. And that's the uniqueness about it. You bring your uniqueness to the table, and it really starts with you being aware of who you are. And most people are other people. But once you become, fully engaged in knowing who you are, and you set up personal roles and rules and boundaries and definitions and expectations for yourself, that's the beginning of something happening that is so remarkable, because most people live as strangers to themselves. So doing the inner work, that woman of the future does the inner work. She knows who she is. We talk about the X factor, but there's an I factor as well. Who am I? And she starts at the level of her identity. And, the whole idea of self-mastery simply means that you know how to down-regulate your emotions and then up-regulate your gifts. And that's what you want. When you show up, you don't want to show up emotional, but you understand your greatest contribution to the world is when you are uniquely you. Secondly, it's about self-knowledge. So being aware of the fact that you're separate and apart from everyone else, then the big work starts, knowing who you are. And for those that I mentor, I start with the DISC analysis, and we look at who they are as an individual and then how they show up in the world, because that's the secret to being unstoppable, showing up as who you are. And, there are 12 questions a person needs to ask themselves as they're defining themselves, and they have to know that they're the CEO of their personal brand, and they've got to know their core values, a whole bunch of other things. And then after that is self-approval. So, we live in a world where we are taught to loathe ourselves and to look at other people as icons and other people as the best. But what if you were called to be an icon, just approving yourself and saying, yes, this is who I am. God didn't make a mistake. And a lot of us undermine our greatness because of self-loathing. But, you know, self-approval is more important than someone affirming you. When you can affirm yourself, then you can get rid of the imposter syndrome. And so many people are living with the imposter syndrome, you know, a lack of self-acceptance. And when someone compliments you, you're not able to say thank you and really appreciate that at the level of your personhood. You say, well, I'm not that good. So you lie about yourself because you don't feel that you're as good as you are. And then usually each one of us have motivations, things that motivate us. And most people who suffer from the imposter syndrome is motivated by their insecurities. So they want to be the best. They have all these accomplishments, resumes, and all of that because of insecurity. And it's not coming from a place of vision and purpose and assignment and their giftings and their genius zone. It's coming because they feel insecure, and then they prop themselves up with photo ops with other people, with this resume, with one degree after another, and they disregard the fact that the greatest gift is their personhood, not what they do, but who they are. And a lot of them attribute their success or failure to other people. So I can go on and on and on, but you know, I think, you know, after that is self-control. The big thing that happened at the award, I mean, you know, everyone's talking about it. It's an issue of self-control. And, you know, you're able to down regulate emotions that will undermine what you worked for. It'll undermine your reputation. It'll undermine people's feeling about you. So you know, for a woman, it takes a lot of work to be able to say, you know, I'm self-regulating, and in order for me to show up in my best light, I've got to be able to manage my emotions as well. And then you jump into self-care. And that's the big thing that we're talking about. And in one of the programs that I have, I talk to women, high achieving women, and show them how to manage not just their life, but their health according to the clock at the time of the day. You know, at 4 o'clock, your bladder is being restored, 4 o'clock p.m. So what do you do there? At 6 a.m. in the morning, something is happening with your large intestine. And once you interfere with, you know, your body clock, it can create enough tension in your body to throw you off mentally, emotionally, relationally. But once you work with, you know, your body clock, your time clock, once you're able to work with timing and you manage your life according to your vision and your goals, I think that you know, women are able to show up really, really powerfully and to contribute everything that they have the capabilities and the potentiality to do so. And you know, looking at your body, I don't even know why I'm going down this way, but we know that if you're fearful, it directly affects your adrenal glands. So your adrenal glands will end up being weakened, and then you lose energy. And, you know, the same thing with your liver. We know that anger is stored in the liver. And a lot of people suffer from dizziness and headaches and, you know, these pressure or pain around the rib area. But it may be an issue of their liver, and them letting go of anger. And so when we talk about down regulating emotions, we're not talking about ignoring them, finding, you know, a healthy way to express. So the female that is, I call her the future female. The future female has the whole idea of nurturing her sacred self, aka self-mastery. And there are 10 levels of self-mastery. The other thing is to be able to show up unapologetically strong. This is the woman that knows her worth. We're born delicate, but our strength is actually forged in the fire of gender bias.
Mm.
And that's where our strength comes from. So, this future female operates in the zone of her genius. And this is where she gets her self-confidence, her self-acceptance, and this is where we talk about self-mastery. This is where self-mastery really happens. And then resilience is actually her badge of success. So where, she should go, and I'm moving around here because I wrote the book Unstoppable. And I want every woman to get a copy of this because this talks about how to be resilient. It's all about you taking one step further than the point of give up. And taking that one step when you want to give up is called resilience. It's the whole idea of mental toughness. It's about you being convinced that you can do this. And you don't give up today. You just say, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and give it one more try. And that's what resilience is all about.
Mm.
I think resilient people are different, or resilient women are different from women that just give up. And I'll give you an example in a soundbite when I talk about resilience. My soundbite is a person that gives up often wishes today would be different from today. Things are going wrong. But a resilient person says, tomorrow is going to be better than today. And that's where her hope is. When you wish today was different, that brings about frustration and depression. But when you say, I wish that tomorrow would be better than today, this is when you activate your hope. You see where I'm going with this?
Yes, yes.
That's what resilience is all about. Resilience is not you wishing during bad times that it would be better. It's saying tomorrow is going to be better, and that's why I'm going to push. That's resilience.
So good.
I hope I explained. And my last one, I think, the future female owns her identity. She knows who she is. She never dumbs down. She does not suffer from the imposter syndrome. And I gave a little bit about the imposter syndrome. And the future female has a mentor. That future female has a mentor. And all the greats, from Oprah Winfrey to Lady Gaga to Aristotle to Napoleon the Great to Barack Obama, to all of these great people and iconic figures that we admire, they all had one thing in common. It was not where they were born. It was not their gifts, not their talent, not their finances. What they had in common. And I researched all of them. It took me 1 year. They all had one thing in common. They had a mentor. And so I've experienced success at many, many different levels. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life mentoring the next female leader, mover, shaker, history maker. And that's what I'm called to do. So I hope I answered your questions. I went the long way home.
It's good. It's good. But you mentioned mentors, so I have to, and you talk about the book Unstoppable. Guys, you have to go get it, Unstoppable. But in the beginning, the foreword is written by one of your mentors, friends, and colleague, international speaker, Les Brown. And this is what he had to say about you. Dr. Trimm is a pioneering thought leader, futurist, life strategist, entrepreneur, and leader of leaders. If anyone is qualified to speak into your life and revolutionize your career, business, or brand, it is Dr. Cindy Trimm. She is truly an unstoppable force in her own right. In this masterpiece you are holding in your hand, you will find all you need to live and lead in the same unstoppable fashion. When you first read those words by Les Brown about you, what went through your mind?
Well, I'm humbled, and it's a privilege. It's a privilege to have someone of his caliber and his status to look at you as and admire you and call you his mentor, as well as me calling obviously him a mentor of mine as well as a good friend of mine. But I think it's humbling because I feel that my greatest expression of my gift is to undergird those that are on their journey to success, to discovering who they really are. And prayerfully, I could be the wind beneath their wings and
Yes.
support them on their climb to the top. The other day, someone asked me, "So how are you, how's your day?" And I said to them, "I'm making waves that other people ride." And they were laughing. And I meant it because I feel like I do make waves that other people ride to the top. So I feel like, if I was water, I would be a flood and a tsunami combined. I feel like, I want people to rise. I want them to see themselves as great. Most people don't see themselves as great. And they spend their time believing the lie when they know intuitively, because it's downloaded in them, that they are a reflection of the master. So that makes them a masterpiece, created in the image and after the likeness of God. So, everyone, I believe, that is living and has ever lived is the highest expression of divine genius and intelligence given to humanity as a gift. So if we can embody that energy of actually being an expression of God's genius and intelligence, and you embody that energy, how would you show up?
Yeah.
You would show up differently. You'll feel different about yourself. Wow, I am the highest expression of God's divine genius and intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to get to know someone great, look in the mirror, and the person that's looking back at you is who I'm talking about.
Wow. Wow.
Get to know that person.
Yes. Yes. You talk about identity, and I have to ask, what kind of identity issues are you seeing plaguing our society these days?
Wow, people, we live in a world that's driven by algorithms. And so most people don't understand that these algorithms are programmed to give dopamine hits. And so surfing the internet and all of that, it's all about a dopamine hit. I think one of the greatest challenges is for people to get high on the knowledge that they can communicate directly with God and tap into a divine genius that is not available through social media. And they don't have to be controlled by these external forces, that their internal GPS is more powerful than social media and the algorithms that are controlling the masses. And these algorithms are actually telling people how to think about the world, how to think about events, how to think about themselves. And people are really losing touch with themselves. Like I said, they live as a stranger to themselves. If you know, there are 12 bands of a relationship, right? And I call this your power differential, your power differential. And you know what a differential is, right? On a car. It gives the wheels, the tires, the ability to move independent of one another so that it can navigate terrain and weather.
Yeah.
So that if the right wheel needs to turn, It slows down so the left wheel can spin a little further so you can make that bend.
Yeah.
And if you didn't have a differential, you'll be just crashing through light. And so a lot of us are casual about getting to know who we are. So we become a casualty. And we're leaving that for other people to define. And that is not for social media. That is not for other people. It's not for your enemies. It's not even for your family. It is your responsibility to know who you are, to sit long enough in the presence of God, and to navigate what I call your sacred self. And only you and God lives there.
Yeah, yeah. The subtitle of your new book, Unstoppable, is Compete with Yourself and Win. And there's a little story in the beginning of this book that you talk about. I think it's your 5 or 6-year-old self. It's a cute story. I want you to share a little bit. This story, it's indicative of when you learned, I guess, at this age, how to compete with yourself and win. Share a little bit about that story.
Yeah, I was 5 years old. You know, I grew up in poverty, abject poverty. So I was 5 years old, my first race ever. And for the little 5-year-olds, there's this shoelace race that they put you in. And it's understood that you have to tie your shoelace. But I grew up in a family of 6 other siblings. So I guess it was easy for them to tie my shoelaces than to teach me. So here's on the day, this sports day, and I had on fresh blue shorts and white sneakers, and my bow and my hair is, pulled back. And I showed up full of confidence because I looked like all the other kids, right? Mm-hmm. And they put all the 5-year-olds to the starting line. So what you do, the shoelace race, you take your sneakers off, put them at the end of the race, and you go back to the beginning, and you have to run, get your shoelace, tie them, get your sneakers, tie your shoes, and run back, and that would be the end of the race. So, we all lined up, put our sneakers where we had to put our sneakers, and, we went back to the start, and they said on the mark, get set, go. And I ran, all the kids ran, and one by one, they got to this, the start line, put their shoes on, tie their laces, and one by one, they ran. I was the only one there because I didn't know how to tie my shoes, and that was the rule. You have to tie your shoes in order to finish this race. And so I sat there and I said, I'm in this race. It's too late now. I'm going to run this race. So then, I sat there trying to tie my shoe, and I didn't know how to tie it. And so the teacher came and said, it's all right, Cindy. I'll show you how to tie your shoe. Let me tie it. And I said, no, I want to run this race. And I had tears coming down my eyes. I heard my mother say, run, Cindy. I heard all the kids say, run, because they wanted this race to finish. But I knew at that point that it was no longer about me competing with these other kids. It was about competing with the next best version of myself. And the next best version of myself at 5 was to learn how to tie my shoelaces, independent of everyone else. Mm-hmm. So I made my teacher show me on one sneaker, and I tied it on the other. I untied it, tied them both, and I ran my race. And that day was the day I learned one of my biggest lessons, that the race is not for the swift or for the strong. It's him that endures to the end. You got to finish your race. And I was never racing against other people. I was in this race with the next best version of myself. And that's when I learned to be unstoppable. I was 5 years old. And you should hear them cheer. So when I got to the end, I didn't get to the top, the first or the second or the third. They gave me a consolation prize. And that was good enough for me. I went home with this consolation prize. And, a lot of us, life is like a race. It really is. And as long as we feel as if we are racing against other people, we'll become discouraged. Once you understand Olympics is not for competing with someone else. You've already proven to the world that you're the best. By the time you qualify for the Olympics, you are actually trying to beat your last best score. That higher, faster, stronger is not higher than someone else. It's higher than your last score. And so we are all competing with the next best version of ourselves. And I love this book so much. And I believe that on that page, I also talk about how all of us, we are been winning since our conception. And I just want to read a little portion of this. This is page 20. Your biological beginning is proof that you are a born winner. Out of 250 million possible others competing for your mother's egg at conception, you won. You were pre-programmed to maximize your potential and utilize your full capacity as a winner. And if you could do this without a fully developed mind or heart or hands or feet or eyes, can you imagine what you can do and accomplish and achieve now that you have a fully developed mind and heart, hands, feet, and eyes? Your competition is with yourself, the next best version of yourself.
In light of that concept, it's easy to tell if you're winning in a race because whoever got there first won. When you're in competition with yourself, how do you identify when you're winning?
I think, when you set goals and you have enough personal integrity not to wiggle out of those goals, and those goals are attached to your identity and your purpose and your core values. When you reach those goals, you won. And if you do that every day, you won. Like, I just started a juice fast. And today's my first day. And at the end of the day, when I go to bed, I've won. I was able to prepare my husband his meal with chicken and salad and not even be tempted.
Wow.
But if I could do that every day, you have to ask yourself this question: what one thing could I dedicate 1 hour a day to accomplish that has the power to change my destiny at the end of my life? What would that one thing be? What would it be?
Wow.
So, I think that people don't give themselves credit. We look at the big things, but we don't look at the small things, the small little things, and compliment ourselves accordingly.
Wow. As we honor women making history, who are some of the women in history that have influenced you?
Whoa! Mother Teresa, of course. Her conviction and her love for humanity. Winnie Mandela, her boldness, her tenacity. Margaret Thatcher, her brilliance, her uniqueness. She's the Iron Lady. Maya Angelou, her ability to speak, obviously. The mother of Jesus, Mary. She lived counterculture. Deborah in the Bible. She defied the odds. She never asked permission to be. She just was. I can go on and on with so many people that I admire, but the person that I admire the most is my mother. She raised 7 children without a father, and she was the one who taught me how to be relentless and unstoppable.
Beautiful. You talked about future female, and we're going to prepare to wrap. I have to ask you, as a former senator, a global leader, speaker, we have this now Black woman who's the first
Well,
nominated for the Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown Jackson. What are your thoughts on this? What does this mean for Black women and our nation?
it means everything for Black women. When you look at Ketanji and her interview, she's, firstly, for America, I think that she arising to the highest court in the land, or the um, highest court in the land. I think it's a watershed moment that gives Americans, period, a point of pride. We could be proud as Americans that we've arrived at this point, that we do have a female and she's a woman of color, a Black woman. Secondly, I think it's going to sort of resurface the terrain of social justice. It's going to push the needle in the right direction. And simultaneously, it's going to inspire other young Black and brown women, girls who have aspirations and that they can attain professional and social success as a woman. She's a woman of color. And it demonstrates to me her commitment to not only represent women of color, but all colors and all women, irrespective of race and creed. And I believe that she represents the face of progress to me. Um, uh, for women, period, not just in the United States of America, but for women around the world. And she represents diversity because she's contributing her point of view in the decisions that will affect all Americans, not just some Americans, all Americans. So I think it's a step towards greater diversity, gender equality, and she has the amazing opportunity to shape policies that's going to affect us for a very, very long time. So the future looks bright. It looks bright for women. It looks bright for diversity. It looks bright for gender equality, and it's a fresh start. And I wish her all the best. She's got all my supports. It's a historical moment, and I'm happy to be alive to witness it.
Absolutely. You guys, Dr. Cindy Trimm, Unstoppable, Compete with Yourself and Win. Listen, I want you to go over to unstoppablebook.online, unstoppablebook.online, and get your free copy. Did we say free, Dr. Trimm? Free, right?
I mean, free. They need to go now because it's not going to be free in another couple of days. And if they do find out that it's not free, it is on Amazon.com. But for all 200 that's there, male or female, if you're a male, get on it. All of my male friends have this. All of them. You know why it's important for a man to read this book? Because we're husbands, we're fathers, and we're employers as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I say both female and male get you a copy.
Unstoppablebook.online. As we prepare to wrap, Dr. Trimm, I want to get a closing statement from you. I'll begin the statement and I want you to end it. To me, a history maker is someone who is...
To me, a history maker is someone who defies the odds, shows up unapologetically, and alters the rules of the game as an industry disruptor that pushes and paves a way for others to follow. I think that's a history maker. I think they change the rules of the game. And in changing the rules of the game, they invite other people to be a part of the new normal. And that's the history maker.
So good. Dr. Trimm, I appreciate you. You guys, Unstoppable Book. Online. Get your copy today. Dr. Trimm, thank you so much for joining me. Tell Bishop hello. I love you
You
both.
know, Cornell, I love you. I'm so proud of you. Anytime. Anytime. And you light up the world with that smile.
Thank you, Dr. Trimm. Love you so much. You guys
Love
be
you. Thank you
safe.
for
I'll be
having
talking.
me.
No problem.